It used to drive me crazy, on the police department. I'd see, an officer going up to someone who's, homeless and causing some problems and start talking down to them. I abhor. It is, I don't think hate is strong enough. People talking down to other people, period. I don't care where your station is in life.
Correct.
Is one of those things that is just like a pet peeve of mine. We don't talk down to people.
Right.
We respect everybody.
Welcome to Inside the Polygraph. I'm your host, David Goldberg, expert polygraph examiner. Join me as I and my guests break down the facts, fictions of polygraph testing, law enforcement, and so much more. Real cases, real conversations. The truth is always revealed inside the polygraph. Welcome to Inside the Polygraph with David Goldberg. I'm David Goldberg, expert polygraph examiner and host. Today, I am so excited and privileged to welcome a very special guest, my friend of over 30 years, the Sheriff of the City of Norfolk, Virginia, Joseph P. Barron. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
Before we get started and before I truly welcome you, I want to give you an introduction that you so deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, when I call this man a friend, he really is a friend of mine. And everyone that knows Joe also calls him a friend. This man I met when I was a partner with him in a large police department, and we were homicide detectives. But let me explain something to you about this man. Not only did I learn from him how to be an expert investigator, which I have used tremendously in my profession, what I've learned from him, not only did I use and take what he taught me, the skills of being an investigator, I learned from this man, on top of what my parents taught me, is humility, compassion, how to treat people with respect, and how to treat people that are in dire need. And that has taken me where I am today in my profession. And this man does everything he says. So he is not a man that just talks the talk. He is an individual that will do what he says on a daily basis. Joe is an impeccable individual. He has an impeccable resume. This man served in the United States Navy. He has morals, integrity, high religious beliefs and values. And like I said, he proves this on a daily basis. Joe has nearly 40 years of law enforcement experience. And the experience he has is not only leading a homicide detectives in major crimes, he has over 20 years of supervisory and leadership skills and roles in law enforcement in every aspect you can imagine, such as leading a small team at crime scenes all the way up to major crime scenes and an entire division, to helping and ensuring that an entire city is protected at major events for homeland security. Joe, who is the sheriff of the city of Norfolk, Virginia, has been elected 2 times since 2017 and is now involved in a 3rd bid for election. And I can't think of a better person to run for a 3rd term. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big warm of applause and welcome to my friend and to an awesome sheriff of the city of Norfolk, Virginia, Joseph P. Barron. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, David.
Well, thank you for coming on this show. It means the world to me.
I appreciate the invitation.
Like I said, I'm by trade and in my career a polygraph examiner. You know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't lie.
Didn't always.
No, I haven't.
We were investigators.
Exactly. And I don't lie. And so when I read and spoke about the introduction about you, not one word is a lie. And you have meant the world to me. And I know you mean the world to a lot of people in the city of Norfolk. And so I'm going to dive right on in, all about you. And I want my listeners and viewers to really get a big sense of who you are, why you became sheriff, and what you do for the entire community. And so are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Most people who have such a wonderful career in law enforcement, after that wonderful career, most individuals would, after their retirement, find a nice sunny state, nice tropical island, maybe find a great location to just relax, play golf, go on the beach, go on a boat, and just enjoy their retirement that they so deserve. You, on the other hand, chose, after retirement, you chose to go into a whole new career path with new challenges and new goals. Can you tell our listeners what truly inspired you after a full retirement from an illustrious career on a police department to take on that challenge? What inspired you to become sheriff of the Norfolk City in 2017?
Well, Dave, yeah, I appreciate the question, but truly, when I left the police department, I had done 26 years there, and I was still young. I joined the police department when I was 21, so 26 years after that, you're still young, you're still vibrant. There's still things that you can do and contribute to the community and contribute to society. There's still a lot that you can do to make a difference, right? Which is something that's always resonated with me. I've always been, since I was young, someone that wanted to behave in a way that was respectful to others. The golden rule: treat others the way you wish to be treated, right?
Right.
But also, I've always wanted to be someone that helps people. There were two things growing up that always resonated in my heart. One, I wanted to be one of the good guys.
Which you were.
Which I try to be, right?
Right.
We all try to be. And number two, help people. I always have enjoyed helping people. So if I'm at a grocery store and I see someone struggling with their grocery bags, I'll go right over and offer to help them. I see somebody drop somebody, I'm the first one to bend down and grab it and say, hey, you dropped this, that kind of thing.
Right. I remember being your partner, we would stop the car and help people with groceries and broken down cars. We would do that more than what we were supposed to be doing at times.
Right. But, I think that that's what we should be here for, being of service to others, right? And, you talk a little bit about my faith. And I'm not going to dive into that, but
you can talk about it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But
it's important
for me. That's what my faith has taught me. We should be of service, right? So that's one thing. I wasn't done, right? I was too young to really be done when I retired. But the other thing is, my wife told me I had to go back to work.
I got you.
So I ended up with the sheriff's office, which was a new experience, completely different from the police department and the work that I did at the police department. But I really learned to love the men and women of the sheriff's office and the job that they had to do. And it's a tough job. It's not a lot of people don't go into a sheriff's office, especially one that runs a jail operation, right?
Right.
Because it's you're dealing with people in a jail that don't want to be there, right? And sometimes they can be challenging.
That's true.
So it's a challenging environment. It's a challenging job. But I'd learned to go there with humility and learn as much as I could, and to respect the people that were doing the job, and then just try to do my best to contribute. So.
Your experience on the police department, tell us how you took that experience from the police department when you became sheriff, and how you brought that to the sheriff's department, and how that made you the leader that you are and how you helped your department become so successful?
I think what I learned the most in my career on the police department was a couple of things. First and foremost is that relationships matter, right? Building relationships with others, with the purpose of being able to get the job done, right? Partnerships like we had on the police department, and those connections to others, not just on the police department, but throughout the region and elsewhere, and calling on those resources to be able to get the job done. Because, in law enforcement, it's not just about showing up to work every day, right?
That's correct.
You're there for a purpose. And, when we were investigators, our job was to investigate the crimes that were placed before us, to work on getting those things resolved, right, in a successful way. Whether you found out somebody was not guilty of doing something, or you found somebody could be guilty of doing something, and then bringing them before the courts so that they would have their day in court, whatever it was. But relationships really matter. And so in order to build healthy relationships with people, you have to behave with humility, and you have to behave in a way that of care and compassion for other people. Otherwise, they don't really want to talk to you, right?
That's correct.
Otherwise, they don't really want to, have a relationship with you, whether it's a friendship or whether it's just a working relationship, whatever it is. We've all in this world have worked with people that we just didn't like because of the way they behaved. Your behavior matters.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so, I learned that as a very important piece of the puzzle, and how we talk to people, respect and other people is important. But then you go on, and because I had been through so many different leadership roles on the police department, I got promoted to my first leadership role as a corporal.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah, the day after 9/11.
Right.
So I've been in as a police officer for a long time, and I waited till later in my career before I even thought about going up for rank. But then when I started going up for rank, I moved up pretty quickly.
Right.
I was fortunate, and I went from corporal. And you learn things at that rank.
Right.
You learn things at every stage that you do in leadership, and you learn what works and what doesn't work. You learn that your rank doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
You can go around trying to boss people around.
Some people feel that way.
Yeah.
Some don't.
Yeah.
Some feel that as soon as they get rank, that's who they are.
Yeah,
and
it means nothing.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
And I tell people all the time that the collar devices mean nothing.
Correct.
Right? It's really still about relationships, right? It's really still about how do we develop, trust with each other and create a sense of cooperation with each other so that we can get the things done that we need to, right? And it's the same thing. What I've learned being a corporal and then a sergeant, then a lieutenant, and then later a captain on the sheriff's office and a colonel in the sheriff's office, and now the sheriff, is it never changes. Your job, what you have to realize is you're not selected to those positions to be the boss of people, which so many people believe.
Correct.
Right? So many people believe that when you get promoted or somebody selects you to be the supervisor or the manager or whatever, that you're now the boss, right? And that may be true from the leadership perspective, but bossing people around is not the way to develop trust and cooperation with people.
Correct.
What I realized over those years is that being in leadership positions or supervisory positions was really about, for the police department, is about getting the job done and getting the group of people together and focused on getting the job done. But from a leadership perspective, it was really all about building those relationships and creating that environment of cooperation and understanding that you're not the boss of people, you're not in command of people, You are responsible for people.
Correct.
And that's the big difference. In fact, Colin Powell, when he spoke at Colgate University and he spoke about leadership, he says it perfectly clear. And he says, when you become responsible for people, remember, they're the ones getting the job done.
That's
right?
correct. Oh, absolutely.
So your job is to put them in the best environment possible to achieve the purpose of the organization. Now, think about that. I mean, I've never heard it put in such a succinct way and in a great way as it relates to what leadership is truly about. And he talked about whether you're a general or whether you're a frontline supervisor, you are responsible for other people, which means that connotates that you have to care about them, you have to value them, you have to remember you're not the one really getting the job done. They are.
Right.
And so you have to give them the tools to make sure that they can get the job done, whether it's training, whether it's equipment, whether it's support, whatever it could be.
Right. And that's where, and I will say this, that's the difference between a real leader and just a boss. And I'll tell you why. And you said two things that's real poignant that I want to hit on. Number one is a leader is one that you just said, respect, and you want to see others succeed. A boss, what I say is anyone can give out orders. Anyone can say, you do this, but a leader will give out orders or give out direction, and they will not give out a direction. They would not do the same thing that they're asking someone to do. A leader, like you said, is about respect. Absolutely. And here's one thing that you just said was real poignant that I use in my profession all the time. Behavior. Everyone makes bad decisions, and you will never meet anyone that has not made a bad decision in their life. And I always say you may have done something inappropriate. That's a bad decision, wrong behavior. That does not define who you are because behavior can be corrected. And what happens is when they come to me, I respect that individual, and I can tell you I've done doctors, lawyers, just because they have a higher...
with the polygraph.
Correct. Yeah. Just because they have a higher title than someone else doesn't make them more important or better. They're the same level. They just may have done something wrong or more egregious, but the fact is I still give them the same utmost respect, and things can change, and that's how a person that you taught me, humility, and just like you said.
Well, I think, for me, and it goes back to, my faith is, I always think about this. I say, if we are all truly children of God, then, we had best treat each other with respect, right?
Right.
Because even if, someone gets off track with their behavior, as you talk about, or they're going down the wrong path, or they've done things wrong, then, that doesn't mean that we treat them like dirt.
Absolutely.
I mean, it used to drive me crazy, in the police department. I'd see, an officer going up to someone who's, homeless and causing some problems and start talking down to them. I abhor. It is, I don't think hate is strong enough. People talking down to other people, period. I don't care where your station is in life.
Correct.
Is one of those things that is just like a pet peeve of mine. We don't talk down to people.
Right.
We respect everybody, period. But I think it's important what you're saying. It's in line with what you're saying is that, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whether you're someone that's, struggling to get by and,
Correct.
And dig in a ditch or something. We're all important,
Absolutely. Tell the listeners what a sheriff and the role is all about, because some people may not even know. I know you're the top cop in your department, but some people might not know what a sheriff is. I know. So please tell.
Yeah, no. So, in Virginia, a sheriff is one of the, constitutional officers. And when you say constitutional officers, you kind of, well, what does that mean, right? Well, it means that in the Virginia's Constitution, you have certain positions that every county and every city in Virginia is going to have. Like, so they have a treasurer as a constitutional officer. It's written in the Constitution that, like the city of Norfolk will have a treasurer, a commissioner of revenue, a sheriff, a clerk of the circuit court, and a Commonwealth attorney. So those are your 5 constitutional positions that are afforded to every locality in Virginia.
Okay.
And then each of them have responsibilities constitutionally that they are required to do. So I'm a constitutional officer just like the governor is a constitutional officer.
Right.
The governor's not in charge of me, and I don't report to the governor, just as an example. We are separate entities. We're all under the executive branch, so to speak, because I'm an executive within the boundaries of the city where I've been elected. And that's where my authority lies. My authority comes from the citizens of my city who have elected me to be in that role.
Okay.
And so throughout Virginia and actually throughout the country, sheriffs play different roles. And so in some counties, if there is not a police department, then that role of law enforcement, going out there and responding to calls for service, investigating crimes, and that kind of thing, falls on the sheriff. Like, you'll see that in counties like Alawite County, right? So the sheriff there is responsible for those. And some sheriffs have jails and some don't have jails. Some, through agreement, are part of a regional jail system.
Okay.
But in cities like ours, the sheriff basically is not the primary law enforcement official, because that's the police department as determined by that city's choice of who they wanted to have a police department. So the police department goes out there and they're doing primary law enforcement, which is responding to crimes. And, like if there's a burglary, it's going to be the police department, not the sheriff's office responding. And so then the sheriff is responsible for jail operations, court security. So a bailiff in the courtroom, they work for the sheriff. People that screen people when you come into a courthouse work for the sheriff, and civil process, which is, basically carrying out a judge's order or the court's orders, or delivering subpoenas or, those kind of things. If a court says that, someone needs to be evicted, it's the sheriff's office that's going to carry out that eviction. Or if they, put a lien, on your property, then it's the sheriff's office that will go and enforce that. So that's basically it. So a sheriff's office truly, can have the most disciplines in law enforcement than any police department. Okay. So police departments generally, have one discipline, and that's the, criminal investigation, where they go to the academy and that. A sheriff's office can have up to 4. So they'll get certified either in law enforcement, right? That's 1. 2, we're all considered law enforcement, right? But the disciplines in law enforcement, but that's patrol work, it's investigations, that kind of thing. The 1. 2 is being a correctional officer, jail officer. 3 is court security operations. That's a certification. And then 4 is civil process operations. So there's 4. And, and a sheriff's office can have all 4. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
What is your role is what I want the listeners to know. What is your particular role?
In my city, I run the Norfolk City Jail. We provide security for the courthouse, and we do civil process. We don't do patrol work, and we don't get the funding or the personnel to do that. And because the city has their own police department.
If something major came, some major event came, would you, by charter or order by the mayor or whatever, could your deputies go on patrol if something happened?
Yeah. So, you're required to do through, I guess, DCJS
Yes.
requirements. You have to have additional training to be a patrol officer.
Right.
But it doesn't eliminate our ability to supplement where we can supplement. So, like a couple of years ago, maybe a few years ago, Norfolk was having some problems in the downtown areas that related to crimes of violence.
Correct.
And so, the mayor can't order me to do anything.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because, I'm a separate entity.
Right. Right.
But the mayor can ask me, or I can offer, which is what I did. I saw these things going on, and I offered to have deputies working in a part-time basis, which means they would get paid overtime.
Okay.
To work side by side with a police officer.
Oh, okay.
When they were doing patrol, because initially, the police department was shorthanded, but they were pairing up police officers to work downtown.
Okay.
With each other, and so in order to be a force multiplier and maybe relieve some of the officers that they were dedicating to this, we were pairing a deputy up with the officer, and we've done that wherever we needed. And if they have big events and they need, a supplemental law enforcement, presence, that's stuff that we can definitely do, and we do. We've done it.
That's awesome. I know the importance of your position as sheriff and what it means to the community of Norfolk. Can you tell me and tell our listeners how important your leadership means to the community and what you do for the community outside of your facility? Yeah,
I think the community just wants a sheriff or anybody in leadership positions, in government. They want leadership they can trust. They want leadership that, one, is going to do the job that you've been hired to do, effectively and efficiently, right? But two, they need to be able to trust you. They need you to behave in a way where they know they don't need to worry about you, right? And so how do you do that? It comes from, leadership understanding that you play a role in creating the culture of your organization. And you can have a culture, and we talked about this earlier, where you have people that are behaving in a way in your organization like, well, we're the authority, we're the ones that know our job, and you're just a citizen and you don't know, which means you talk down to the citizen or you respond to them, and you're not responding to them with care and compassion or with respect, and instead you're demanding respect, right?
Right.
And and that's not the way to do it, And so when I took over the sheriff's office in 2017, we had a major cultural problem. The community, lacked trust in the sheriff's office. We had very low morale,
right?
And so all that needed to be turned around. And so for me, the very first thing I did was change the motto of the sheriff's office. It seems simple, right? And it is simple. But so many people, don't think about it. You always, you read books and they say, oh, well, you got to have a mission statement, you have a vision statement, you have to have, those kind of things. And I never really realized how important those things were until I became a sheriff.
Okay.
But it's not just doing those and putting them up on the wall and forgetting about them. It has to be.
You have to live it.
You have to live it.
Right.
And so the first thing I did was we changed the motto of the sheriff's office to we serve in the spirit of the golden rule, treat others the way we wish to be treated, the bottom line. And I will tell you what the immediate effect was. I was telling everyone in my organization that's how I wanted them to behave.
Okay. Right.
And everyone really wanted to behave that way.
Okay.
That's the way they wanted to behave. Prior to to that, the idea of, being a correctional officer was with inmates is, this idea that you can't be inmate friendly, right?
Right.
I mean, it truly was part of the culture, and that you called inmates. You didn't call them by their name, which
Right.
is kind of dehumanizing them, right?
Correct.
And when I took over, the message I wanted to get was, one, yeah, we got some bad characters in there, because you really do.
Oh, of course you do.
And you have people in your jail that are going to want to try to manipulate
Sure.
you, and they're not happy, and they may assault you, and they may
Right.
attack you. But that doesn't change the fact that our job is not there to punish them. Our
Right.
job, their punishment is their separation from the
Right.
community. Our job is to take care of them while they're serving out their punishment,
Correct.
making sure they're fed, making sure they're taken care of, making sure they don't die. You're going to have people die in your jail, by the way,
Right.
because you get people that have
With-
not taken very good care
I was
of
going to say, with
themselves.
chronic
Yeah.
illnesses,
Yeah.
and they don't tell you about those chronic illnesses, and
Yeah,
that's what happens.
100%.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to, get too far off of what you asked me.
No, I
So
get that.
What my job was, you're talking about the community and how they feel about you. It starts with, you have to change the culture, or ensure the culture is a healthy culture
Sure.
within your organization. And remember, I said earlier, it's got to be creating a culture that's about trust and cooperation.
Right.
And it's not just about what's inside your organization. It's also about creating relationships of trust and cooperation
Right.
with people in the community,
Right.
creating relationships of trust and cooperation with your city council or with your city manager's
Right.
office. And you only do that by behaving with humility
Sure.
and identifying what you stand for, right? And so I said right out of the gate that we stood for respect with the motto, right? And then I created a mission statement, which was really truly about identifying what our commitments were going to be towards. And I said that the mission statement simply is, we're a values-driven organization committed to public safety, public service, and public trust, right? And
Right.
creating an environment of life, health, safety, and security, which is, indicative of what you're trying to do when you're running a jail.
Sure.
Life, health, safety, and security. But those three commitments, public safety, which we're in the public safety business, right? Are we behaving in a way that's in the interest of public safety? If we say no, then we shouldn't be doing that, right? Are we behaving in a way where we're providing public service? Are we serving others and making sure that when somebody's asking us for help, that we're giving them help? If we say no, then maybe we need to change that, right?
Right.
Are we behaving in a way that the public will trust what we're doing? If we say no, then we definitely need to stop behaving that way. And so that's how I started at the beginning. But if you're going to be a values-driven organization, you have to enumerate what your values are. And in 2017, we did that, and the values of the sheriff's office that, I put on paper and
Right.
then we put up around the organization, it really came down to a few things. And the first one is integrity in all things.
Sure.
So if you want to build the trust of the community, you have to behave with integrity.
Absolutely.
Right? And integrity is not just about being honest. It's also about doing the job you're expected to do, showing up to work the
Right.
way you're expected to show
Right.
up to work, treating people the way you're supposed to treat people, right? But behave with integrity. Integrity in all things,
Yeah.
the number
That's
one
just
value.
a subtitle. Then there's categories under that.
100%. Number two is respect at all times. Not just when you're at work, not just when the boss is watching you,
Right.
right?
Right.
At all times, because you carry that title of being a deputy everywhere you go.
Sure.
Everyone knows. Your neighbors know you're a deputy.
sure.
Your
Right.
friends know you're a deputy. So respect at all times is important,
Right.
right? To the organization. Duty without prejudice is our third value,
Okay.
which basically means do your job without bias.
Right.
Don't be biased against people,
Right.
and don't be biased for people. So like if you're a supervisor, don't have your favorites. You have to
Right.
you have to treat everyone with care and compassion. You got to take care of everybody, not
That's
just
right.
the people you like.
That's right.
And then pride without ego, which I think is extremely important because too many people don't behave with humility.
Right.
And
And that's what we were talking about with the
with the collar devices,
with the collar
right?
devices, correct.
You could be proud of what you do,
Right.
wearing the uniform
Sure.
or whatever, or what you do as a member of an organization, as long as it's not all about you. As long as you're not just wearing that uniform because you want to look good in
That's
a
right.
uniform
That's right.
and you want, oh, look at me, right? Be proud, but leave your ego out of it.
That's right.
There's too many people, they bring their ego into it, and it gets in the way of building those relationships of trust and
cooperation.
cooperation.
It gets in the way of the job.
It gets in the way of the job, right?
Right.
And then finally, team before self. That's our final value that we've talked about. And make sure that you're keeping the needs of the team in mind, as you do your job, or whether you show up to work, or whether you call out sick, any of those things. And how can we move the team forward and getting done whatever we need to get done.
Those are excellent.
Yeah,
those are absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
Have you been accused of one of the following in your life, such as infidelity, custody matters, CPS investigations, or serious criminal matters that you're currently being investigated for? At Executive Protection Group Polygraph Service, we have been helping thousands of individuals for over 24 years, no matter who you are or what you have been accused of, with the highest accuracy, integrity, and overall compassion to everyone's needs. We are not your typical polygraph or lie detection service. At Executive Protection Group Polygraph Service, we are certified experts recognized in courts throughout the country, and we stand by our promise to give you full closure and all your needed answers. Call at 757-495-1301 and visit our website at www.executiveprotectiongrp.com to get started. Well, you said a lot in reference to that, and I'm going to hit on what you really said about the individuals that are locked up. Back in the old days, Western, all the way to 50s, 60s, 70s, and even the 80s, probably even the 90s, when individuals were locked up and they were called, obviously, inmates, they would be placed in a cell. The jailer would lock them up and put those keys in a drawer and forget about those inmates. You, on the other hand, Joe, you've taken that and changed it in a whole new direction. And I know that for a fact, and this is what I'm going to want you to explain. You have implemented programs that have changed individual lives that were once incarcerated and were first-time offenders. And when they were able to get out, they did not come back and they did not reoffend. And your programs have been recognized by the governor, by the mayor, by other sheriffs, by other jails, not just in the state of Virginia, but outside of the state of Virginia. If you can tell our listeners what programs you have implemented and why you chose to do that for the incarcerated and what impact it has had on the community, on the incarcerated or former incarcerated, and what kind of stories can you tell, if you have any, on a former incarcerated individual that you've seen strive?
Yeah, no, well, thank you for the question. And first, with all humility, I think most sheriffs that run a jail are trying to put their best foot forward as it relates to inmate programs, And for me, when I became sheriff, I didn't want us to have an inmate program, without some real leadership, first of all, that was focused on trying to address the reasons why people end up in jail to begin with. And for me, I didn't want just feel-good programs like, we'll bring puppies into the jail, and and that kind of stuff. Knitting,
right.
Or whatever, which we had before, and so I started doing a deep dive into why do people end up in our jail to begin with, and for me, it comes down basically to 5 things. First and foremost is job skills. There's studies out there for high incarceration rates, throughout the country. The neighborhoods that have the highest concentration of incarceration rates, there's low job skills in those neighborhoods, and that's coupled with low education levels. So job skills, education levels are two factors that play a role in why someone ends up in your jail to begin with. Number 3 is mental health. We have 2/3 of my inmates in the jail have mental health issues, which is a lot. And then number 4 is substance abuse of any kind, whether it's alcohol, whether it's illicit drugs, whether it's prescription drug abuse, or anything related to that, like, the business of, selling narcotics and those kind of things, is another reason why people end up in your jail. And then number 5 is the inability of people to deal with conflict. So conflict resolution skills, because we have so many people that believe that conflict, or in other words, people having different opinions or not thinking the same way or not doing things the same way, is some kind of attack on their person, and so they react, and a lot of times in a violent way, instead of realizing that we just think differently and that's okay, and so I, sought out a friend of mine, Rick James, who, he and I went to the police academy together. We'd known each other forever. And he, has his law degree, and he's, and he was running a program over at Tidewater Community College. And I begged him to come and take over our inmate programs, because I wanted somebody that, with his connections in the community and his focus, to come and concentrate on those 5 things that I had identified that we needed to concentrate on. And I wanted evidence-based programs. I wanted things that were proven to work. But I was also encouraging, us to be innovative. And so we did. We became innovative. Rick, with the help of Virginia Rader, who writes our grants, found grant money for us to bring teachers in and the equipment we needed to get 250 inmates their GEDs. If you have your education, right?
Right.
That's one of the 5 things. So we worked on that. And Rick was also able to work with Tidewater Community College to bring in, hey, we can have college courses that inmates can take. Okay. If they're at that level. Anything you can do to increase the education of the people that are incarcerated with you puts them in better footing when they get out of jail to never come back to your jail. Sure. Because if someone cannot, create for themselves because of their education level or their job skills, they can't create a living wage, then they resort to being in survival mode. If you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Absolutely. When you're thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very first thing is about food, shelter, warmth, right? The air we breathe, the water you drink, right? And then the next one is shelter, which is a symbol of safety. Do you feel safe, right? Do you feel secure? And a lot of times, if you don't have a living wage, you're worried about where you're going to get your next meal. Right. And you don't feel like you're safe because you don't have, maybe you're not living in this safe neighborhood, whatever it is. But these things drive us as human beings, right? And, where we want to get people to is that third level, which is this sense of belonging and love and family. Now, I'm not doing all that in the jail, but what I'm doing is trying to, give them what they need to, take care of the first 2 things. Right. Sense of accomplishment. Right. Yeah. So if you have a job, you get a good job, you're in a better position to be able to provide for yourself. Right. Simple as that. Right. And so at the end of the day, we got focused on those things, and you asked for a specific story. So we started, an automotive program. Wow. Now, we didn't do it on our own. Dennis Elmer with Priority Automotive, and he's recently sold the business, had this idea about creating a, automotive training program to train people to be mechanics. And he wanted to do it in a jail or a prison environment. He's from Norfolk, right? So which was a terrific opportunity for me as a sheriff to partner with Priority Automotive and Tidewater Community College to create an automotive training program. And so we had this hybrid of
they would come to you, or you'd go, or you
yeah, I'll explain.
Oh, wow.
So we would have a hybrid program of a work release program, because we have work release programs.
Okay.
And vocational training. So it was, a few days a week they were working for Priority Automotive, just changing oil and doing things like that. And then, a couple of days a week, TCC would come in and train them, certificate-based training, so that when they got out of jail, they were full-fledged auto mechanics.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you know how well they pay.
Oh, my gosh.
Mechanics
they pay very
well. Exactly.
And not only that, no one's getting into the automotive field anymore. No one's becoming mechanics anymore. That's right. But it's such a great skill. I know I need it. Everyone needs it. Everyone has driving cars.
Everyone has a car. Correct.
So we had an inmate, our very first class, that our pilot class on, we were trying to get off the ground. And let me just shout out to Dennis Helmer. Nobody wanted this program going on in their city. Okay. He tried to do it in one of the neighboring cities and not in our backyard kind of deal. And so Dennis actually built a, multi-million-dollar facility that had all the bays for auto mechanics to learn from and do their work, and a classroom. Wow. He built that. He had that built himself, so that he was that invested in this program. And so we were going to get the program going, and there was an inmate that heard about the program. This is a guy who'd been in and out of the Norfolk jail almost his entire adult life. Okay. And he heard about the program, and he contacted our programs unit and was begging them, hey, I want to get in the program. I want to get in the program, because he knew how much time he had left in jail, which was not a lot of time. Okay. And he knew he needed to get in there and really, take advantage of this opportunity to get these certificates. Apparently, he had people in his family who had been mechanics and that kind of thing. But he'd been in and out of the jail. He did not have job skills. Wow. In and out of the jail his entire adult life. And he was begging us. So program said, sure, we'll get you signed up. And, TCC was involved, so it required a couple of things. You had prerequisites that you had to have. You had to have a GED, or you had to have a high school diploma. Okay. Right? It's certificate-based. Okay. Tidewater Community College, right? So they asked him, well, do you have your high school diploma? Do you have a GED? And he said, no. So, okay, well, you need to get that. So, well, can you help me get my GED? And we, of course, said yes. Of course. We have a GED program. Yeah, we can get you signed up for classes for GED. He said, wait a minute, classes? How long will that take? And he realized that going through the classes for the GED program was going to go past the starting date for the automotive program. Gotcha. He was so motivated. This is a guy who never been motivated in his life, right? And he became so motivated. He said, well, can you give me the books? Just give me the books. I promise I'll take the test and I'll pass. And he did. And we did not have a self-study GED program at that point. We have one now. Wow. Right? Because of this guy. You think about, and I want to touch on what our vision is now. Right. And let me just break right now. So we created a vision statement now for the sheriff's office, which is the purpose of the Norfolk Sheriff's Office is to make a positive difference in the lives of others as far as we can reach. Sure. Right? Think about that. Yeah. It's all about me giving permission to all my staff, look for opportunities to help people. Right. Right. And don't hold anyone back. And don't hold anybody back. Right. So here we are, and this guy wants to get into the automotive program, and he's begging to get in there. He said, well, can you give me the books? And actually my programs unit said, well, we've never done that before. And they asked me, and I said, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't we? Right. You guys are the leaders. You guys, sure. What do you think? And they said, sure. So they gave him the books, and he took the test, and he passed it the first time. Wow. Was he motivated? Yeah, he was motivated. He was motivated. Absolutely. So, man, okay. So he passes that and he gets into the automotive training program and goes through it and is successful and passes the program.
Right.
He leaves jail when he's scheduled to get out, and he is now the top producing mechanic at Priority Automotive.
Isn't that amazing?
Think about it. He
Isn't that
didn't have to
amazing?
go to Priority Automotive. He chose that, right? They're not required to go there. But he's the top producing, not the top producing former inmate,
Right.
or the top producing out of this program.
Right.
The guy's making well over $100,000.
Well, that's what mechanics make.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he's like, he's got his own house. He's got her own vehicle now. He's got, he's contributing to society. He's taking care of his family.
That's awesome.
He has never returned to our jail since.
Right. Well, you might want to bring him back so he can tell inmates what
people hear about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They want to get involved in the program.
That's awesome.
I will tell you, this does not happen. Remember, I talked earlier about relationships, right? Of trust and cooperation.
Right.
And so a number of entities had to come about. One, Dennis Elmer,
right?
Good man. Was a great man, still is, who had this vision.
Sure.
Myself, trusting. Okay, yeah, let's try this. I said, well, Tidewater Community College taking a chance and providing instructors.
Mr. James.
But the mayor, Kenny Alexander from Norfolk, that had to use his influence to make sure that we overcame some hurdles. So there were hurdles back then, in the law. So like if you were incarcerated and you owed court costs and fines, they tied that to your driver's license. So if you had outstanding court fines in which you couldn't go and pay, your driver's license would be suspended.
Okay.
Had nothing to do with you driving or how you drove, but it just was, okay, well, until you pay off your court fines and your driver's license is suspended. Well, you can't go and work on cars
if your license is suspended. Correct.
And, go out there and test drive it and make sure it's working the way it needs to. So that was a problem. And so Governor Northam at the time worked with Dennis and the mayor and myself to do an executive order to say, okay, we're no longer going to require that. And then later legislation was created so that we detached court costs and fines from your driver's license.
Wow.
It never made sense to me my entire career why we did that, because you're basically creating this this circle where people just, they're
never ending.
They're forced to go out there and in order to get to a job so they can pay for the court costs and fines. Yeah. Right. In order to pay their court costs and fines, they got to get a job. They go out and get a job. In order to get to the job, they have to have a vehicle of some sort.
So they never make any ends meet. Right.
And then they get in trouble because, they're driving on a suspended license. It didn't make sense.
Right.
But so, when we talk about making a positive difference as far as we can reach, think about all the things we changed. We have a self-study GED program now.
Awesome.
We didn't have. We have a change in legislation that actually will help people get on their feet, and be successful.
That's amazing.
And we have people that are getting job skills, right, that they need in order to be successful and not come back to jail. All these things are important, And so we did that, and then, just as an antidote as it relates to that, we started programs of co-disorder programs, which dealt with both substance abuse and mental health use at the same time. Okay. Usually you have a program for substance abuse, and then you have a program for mental health. We did a co-disorder program. We were one of the first, I think, in Virginia to do that. And what I know is, we go to these conferences sometimes, and we sit in on training classes. And one of the things was it's like 94 or 95, something like that, some really high percentage of people that are in your jail that have mental health issues, right? Also have substance abuse issues.
Well, of course.
So think about that. So if 2/3 of my inmates have mental health issues, then that means at least that many people
Right.
have a substance abuse issue.
Because
Yeah.
they feel that they can take care of their mental health
Right.
with substances,
yes.
and that's what they do.
Right.
So,
right. So we got focused on that. And so we're doing all these programs that are specifically focused on, like I said at the beginning, the reasons why people end up in jail to begin with.
That's great.
And I feel like it's making a difference.
Yeah,
We have a very low recidivism. In fact, Virginia, we should be proud, has the lowest recidivism rate in the country.
Right.
So, anyways.
Well, that's awesome. And I
Yeah.
mean that. Well, let's take a break. Joe, I want to thank you for coming. It's been an honor and a pleasure as always, especially on a professional level at the podcast. And we will talk more in part 2.
Sounds great, David. Thank you, and give my best to your family.
Absolutely, you too. Thanks so much for listening. If you truly liked what you heard today, please be sure to rate the show, share with others, and subscribe for more episodes.